Hello, welcome. My name's Andy. Thanks for joining us. This week we're going to have a look at another parable of Matthew, another brilliant story, again involving a vineyard like it did last week, but it ends up in a different place this time. So if you want to have a look at the Bible passage, I'll put a link in the text below, but it's Matthew 21, 33 to 44. Okay, you're back. Now, remember, Matthew loved using Old Testament ideas to make sense of what Jesus was up to. So we're going to go right back to Abraham, who was the founder of the Jewish nation. Abraham was promised by God that he would have many, many descendants. His offspring would be huge in number, and that they would be a blessing to all other nations. That's what Abraham's descendants' purpose was in life, to be a blessing to others, to others outside of their tribe. And those descendants, the Jewish nation, didn't get it right. The Bible tells tale after tale of examples of when they didn't act as a blessing to others. For instance, the King Solomon, who's very famous, he built a temple, but he did it by clear-cutting beautiful forests. He built it using slave labour, which was forbidden by God, not what God is into at all. He built up huge armies. He was kind of a superpower of the day. Enormous wealth accumulated. That's not what God had in mind for his people. As time went by, it got worse and worse and worse. And then then God spoke, expressing his horror at how things had turned out through the prophet Isaiah. Okay, now, Isaiah chose to do that, or perhaps God inspired Isaiah to do it, using a song that got twisted at the end. Now, in those days, there were lots of songs. We think lots of songs about vineyards. There was a very common theme for songwriting in those days. People loved vineyards, and they often wrote songs about them. And Isaiah, again, has a song about a vineyard, and it starts off all good. It talks about how the vineyard is set up, how it's terraced, how it has protective walls, how it has everything that it needs to produce good fruit. But it doesn't. Instead of producing good grapes, it produces wild grapes. Okay, so through this song, which people realised straight away that the vineyard represented the nation of Israel, that didn't do what it was meant to do. It wasn't a blessing to other nations. And the song gets twisted. Normal vineyard songs didn't end this way, but it ends with God removing the walls of the vineyard and letting wild beasts destroy it. And soon afterwards, the nation of Israel was destroyed by an enemy nation, and they were taken into exile in Babylon. Okay, so the people of God are meant to be a blessing to others. They weren't. So this story of the vineyard going wrong was a way of telling them just how, making it clear what was going on. Okay, fast forward to the time of Jesus. The story in Matthew, from Matthew 21, Jesus directly quotes from Isaiah. It starts off word for word the same. We have the same story of the vineyard being built up, having protective walls and towers. It's all good. Everything that the vineyard has to be successful is there. But the people who are looking after the vineyard for the owner get it badly wrong. And Jesus goes into more detail where he predicts his own death. But the message is that the vineyard tenants do it wrong again. So this is very much parallel with Isaiah's prophecy. But there's a key difference at the end. In Isaiah, if you remember, the vineyard was destroyed. In Jesus' retelling of Isaiah, it's different. It says that the kingdom of God, so the vineyard, the purpose, the blessing, the call to be a blessing to other nations. The kingdom of God will be taken from those tenants and given to a people that does produce the fruit. Okay, so God has given us, the church, the vineyard. This vineyard that represents the call for God's people to be a blessing to others, that's now passed down to us. That's our purpose now as a church. It's quite useful sometimes to be reminded of what your purpose is. Our purpose is to be a blessing to all nations. Now, how we go about that, well, that is a question, and we can do it in many ways, but we should always be checking it. If we want to check how well we're doing, this is a good way of testing it. Are we being a blessing to all nations? Are we being fruitful in the vineyard? Are we producing good fruit? Okay, that's what I think this passage means. Feel free to discuss it in the comments below or elsewhere. If you're in one of my churches, look forward to seeing you soon. If you're not and you'd like to, you're very welcome. If you're watching this from afar, thanks for joining in. Really lovely to have you with us. Okay, that's it for now. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.